In this first segment, we're going to talk about the important concept of trust. Now, I want you to pay particular attention to how we're defining trustworthy and how effective leaders go about becoming trustworthy.
We've got a really important topic, and as I do training across the state, without fail, when the subject is leadership, which is primarily what I do, the notion of the concept of trust comes up, and yet we understandably all have different definitions of what that means. So partly what we want to do today in our brief time together is talk about trust and talk about its relevance to us as leaders in the state of Utah and in our agencies. So our title for our presentation today is Filling Up the Bucket: How Leaders Build, Maintain, and Restore Trust. And the reason we do Filling Up the Bucket is so that we understand this principle regarding trust. It takes a long time to build trust. It's like drips of water in a bucket. If your goal is to fill up the bucket, it takes repeated actions and words and behaviors and all that kind of thing to build trust to the top, and yet it only takes one kick of the bucket, one violation of trust to get rid of all that water or to get rid of all that trust. And so to refill it back up again, it takes a long time. And so what we want to do is figure out the ways as leaders that we can build that trust up, we can fill up that bucket and avoid kicking it over. And if we have kicked it over, what do we do about it? Or if we're taking over for someone who kicked the bucket over repeatedly, not kicked the bucket, but kicked the bucket over, in this case, repeatedly, what do we do to restore that trust? Another concept we need to understand is that trust is a two-way street. I, as a leader, cannot make anybody else trust me. I cannot force them to do that. I can give them every opportunity, and I can behave in a trustworthy manner, but it takes two people for a trust relationship to take place. In fact, I want to show you a video here. So I'm going to ask you to turn up your computers. We've all heard of the trust fall before, and this is an example of a trust fall and a demonstration of how it takes two people to build a trusting relationship.
And just fall down, okay? Don't worry.
Okay, then Lauren's going to catch you.
Close your eyes. Okay.
Okay, it's called the trust fall. Okay, trust fall. Ready, set, go.
You see the girl who just doesn't quite understand how it works. I'm not so sure she's going to be very trusting the next time her dad and her sister ask her to do a trust fall. Another thing we want to do is we want to clear up this misconception about trust. There's this idea that being trustworthy equals honesty, and that is not that's not the case. Now, honesty is an important part of any trusting relationship, but they're not synonymous. Okay, we often hear the phrase, "Oh, that person is trustworthy. Well, therefore they're honest." What we want to do is we want to expand our definition here. Okay, so trustworthy is not necessarily honest. Rather, trustworthy equals being worthy of a follower's trust. Okay, and we're parsing words here, but what we mean by this is literally someone has to say, yes, you are trustworthy, you are worthy for me to give you this thing, to give you my trust. And we often think in terms of leader and follower dynamics, that leaders have all the power, and yet if there are going to be leaders, there are followers, and they have to have that follower trust. So are you worthy of them to give you that trust? Well, let's talk about exactly what it is that leaders or followers need to trust from their leaders. Okay, so what is it, especially in an organizational setting, do they have to, if you're going to be my leader, what do I have to trust about you? Okay, well, it's all these things here. First of all, I've got to trust that you mean what you say. When you say something, I've got to feel as though it's genuine and that you will walk the talk. When I meet with people across the state, one of the biggest violations they feel that their supervisors have is when they say one thing and do another, or when they ask their employees to do something they're not willing to do. I also have to trust that you have my best interest at heart. Okay, now what does that mean? I have to trust that all you want for me is to be successful, that you're not looking to use me, that you're not looking to manipulate me, that ultimately you want me to be successful. And the third one's really important and often overlooked. I've got to trust that you know what you're doing, that you've got some level of competence. We don't trust people that we, quite frankly, think are bumbling idiots. We just don't. I have to trust that you know what you're doing. I also have to believe that you'll give me every chance and every opportunity to develop into everything that I can be, that I can grow. If I'm going to allow you to be my leader, then I have to accept that that I have to feel as though that's really what you want from me. I'm going to trust that if I give discretionary effort, if I work hard, that you're going to notice. Someone's going to pay attention to that, and I'm going to be appreciated for my work. I also have to trust that if I give this effort, if I choose to spend the majority of my waking hours at this organization, at this agency, that I'm going to be treated fairly and consistently, that I'm not going to be mistreated, that I'm not going to be treated unfairly. That's huge, right? We see lots of violations of trust because of inconsistent treatment. And finally, I've got to trust, like I said, if I'm going to devote my time, and sometimes my primary identity, to this agency and to what it's trying to do, especially in the public sector, especially in a state setting, I've got to trust that the organization will live its espoused values and try to accomplish its mission. I've got to feel that that is really its primary goal, and not just writing mission statements for their own sake or doing things like that, but really that they live the values as an organization and that their primary goal is to accomplish the mission.